Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Vera Tarman, and I am an addiction physician working out of Toronto, Canada. So welcome, and I hope you find something useful. Okay, so I've told you now about the dopamine story. I will say a little bit more about the other neurochemicals shortly, but I want to just bring it back to the larger brain scenario. I'm going to bring myself up here a bit, just to give you some context. So remember I was saying that there's the middle part of the brain is the limbic system, and that in that limbic system we have the nucleus accumbens, which is there, and the amygdala, which is there. Those are the two main pieces that are important to know with addiction. And so I just want to explain some of what I've said in this picture, just so you get the large picture point of view. So the dopamine is going to that nucleus accumbens, and essentially what's happening is that the stimulation comes into our body either through smoking or snorting or whatever, goes to the nucleus accumbens, which is like, oh, that feels good. And that's that initial euphoric high that a person gets. And it might not be euphoria per se, it might be just blunting of emotion because you're not happy or you're feeling very sad, and you just makes you feel a little bit better. So I'm not having a cocaine high to get excited. I'm having a couple drinks just so I don't feel so bad, and maybe a little bit more easy about things that have happened. But anyway, there's something that it's taking me out of the ordinary into the not exactly supernatural, but more than I would normally be able to do with a meditation or talking to a friend. Actually, maybe pretty close to that, but without having to do the work of it. I just have a drink and I get the effect of having had a good talk with a friend, or a long meditation, or a good swim or run or something like that. So we call it the easier, softer way. Anyway, it's going to the nucleus accumbens and achieving the desired effect. And so there it goes. And in this part of the brain, this is the middle part, the emotional, motivational part. The next part above the brain, basically at the top, this is what we call the higher order functioning. And this is not the emotional part of our brain. This is our higher order functioning. And this is the part of my brain that thinks, that registers, that connects things. And it's higher order in terms of evolution. It's more newly evolved. And specifically, I'm talking about thinking. It's in the frontal part of the brain, which is right over there, the prefrontal cortex. It's that's where my thought is. And that's the part of me that says, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing here, because I have my story, my understanding about the situation, kind of like what I'm trying to give you right now. So let's go to the prefrontal cortex, understand the overview of things. But that's a very weak part of the brain. The more important, the more primal, it's the essence of us really is in this middle part of the brain here. I don't need the like my dog, my beloved dog lives in this place, has a little bit of this stuff, but mostly lives in this place. And actually, to tell you the truth, most of the time I live in this place too, but I use a bit of the higher order stuff. But it's not, it makes me different than my dog. It makes us different than animals, but we're not actually there that much of the time. And of course we're not, because we're beings where we have a little bit of intelligence and social finesse and diplomacy and consideration for others, so that we can socialize and connect with people. But mostly we're interested in ourselves. And that's human nature. Please, I'm not saying that we're essentially horrible creatures. No, we're not. We just have to learn to accept that's who we are, and work with this. This is my policy all the time. So prefrontal cortex is my thinking ability. And in my thinking ability is a concept called willpower. So let's talk about willpower. And this is the concept where the person says, you know what? I have to stop doing this behavior. So I'm going to do it tomorrow, not today, because I'm in denial, but I'm going to rely on this thing. I just got to get more willpower. And tomorrow I'm going to get up and gird up my loins, or whatever the term is, and I'm just going to not do this thing anymore, this willpower. And you wake up with gusto and you're not going to do it. But the thing about willpower, which is in this prefrontal cortex, which is in this higher order thing, is it's very weak. It's very newly evolved. It's there to guide us, but not to run the show. That's probably a good way to say it. It's the guide, but it does not run the show. And if I'm in a world where I'm constantly reacting because I'm under stress, or I'm addicted, or I'm anxious or depressed, I'm living in this world over here all the time. And this frontal lobe up here, it's trying to help, but it doesn't have that much power. And let's quantify this by saying, I don't have any research to say this, but this is a sort of general understanding that we have in the addiction world. It has power of about 20 minutes, willpower, 20 minutes in a day. And so if I wake up in the morning and I say, all right, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes. I'm going to quit. I don't have my morning cigarette. Well, I've used a certain amount of willpower, but I got through it. Perfect. Because I'm used to having it with the coffee. Well, the coffee's done, and now I'm out working. So as I go out to work, you know, I'm driving a car and somebody cuts me off, and I'm really annoyed because I'm in a rush and they've cut me off, and I don't roll down the window and yell at them. I want to, but I don't. I've used up a little bit more willpower. Then I go into work, and inevitably in the day, something is going to upset me. The computer's not working, or somebody said something, and I don't blow up. I don't act like the baby that I feel, the anger that I feel. I hold it in. Well, guess what? By the end of the day, I've used up my 20 minutes, and I go home to bed, or pardon me, go home, and there's that pack of cigarettes or that bottle of wine, and I look at it and I say, oh, I don't have anything in me that says no. You know what? I'm going to have this tonight. It's been a rough day. I'm going to have this tonight, and I'll start tomorrow, because the 20 minutes is up. And so willpower, it's there, but it's not there to stop us from our addiction. That is not how you go into recovery. You have to go into recovery in a different way, in a wiser way, in a way of understanding human nature. So willpower, 20 minutes. And think of it like an EpiPen if you have an allergy. You know, you have the allergy, the immune response is happening, your throat is clearing, is starting to swell up, and your lips are swelling up, and you're having difficulty breathing. Take an EpiPen quickly, and you're back again for 20 minutes. And if you don't take that 20 minutes and get to the emergency, or make sure you have another EpiPen, or do something, you're going to be back into your allergic response, unless that allergy was so small that it ran itself out. But it might not have, and in 20 minutes you're back. So you want to be in the emergency so that they're ready for you when you come back with your full-blown allergy experience. Same thing happens with an opiate overdose and Narcan. You know, there is the person having an opiate overdose, which is an overdose of opiates flooding the endorphin receptors. The person is now down, they're in comatose state. You give them Narcan, which essentially strips the opiate from the endorphin receptors, and you basically wake them up, and so that they're now totally not in a comatose anymore. But if the drug is still in them, and that Narcan will run out, it runs out usually in about 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, and then if that drug is still there, and it has, because you've taken a lot of it, or you've taken a very, very strong dose of it, you're going down again. And so you need another Narcan. And it's not unusual now in today's world, where the fentanyl and the carfentanil and all the different versions, where they're so powerful that a person needs 3, 4, 5 Narcan administrations. With willpower, we get one. That's it. And so you want to use that one as care, because it lasts for 20 minutes, and then you're back into default mode of I want to use. So what we usually say in the addiction world is, don't let yourself get into that crisis mode. People, places, things. Here I am clean, but remember, 2-3 years later, I still, when I hear the smell or hear the sound or smell the smell or see somebody that I used to drink with or use with, I'm going to want that. Now I'm in heightened mode, and I want to use, and my willpower is saying, no. You don't want to say, okay, I'm just not going. You don't want to do that. That's not going to work, because in 20 minutes, it's gone, and then you're at risk. So first of all, you don't want to put yourself into that situation very often, but sometimes you can't avoid it. So what we ask people to do in an addiction treatment, recovery, relapse prevention, essentially, well, relapse prevention is don't get into the situation, trigger management. And then when you are in that situation, have some tools. And they are not, I'm not going to use. They are, I'm going to pick up the phone and call my therapist, call my number of people that I call when I'm in trouble. I'm going to, I don't know, say the serenity prayer. I'm going to leave the situation. I'm going to have a platform of things, behaviors that I do that I won't want to do, because I'm going to be telling myself, don't be silly, that's ridiculous, you're overreacting, you'll be fine. But you're going, if you know, nah, hey, I'm an addict, this is what I do when I'm triggered, you're going to use that 20 minutes to your benefit and do all those things that you don't want to do. Because basically, when you're in a craving mode, recovery tools will not feel intuitive. They will not feel intuitive. You have to basically just know, I'm not going to want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to call my sponsor. I'm going to call my therapist. I'm going to call my buddy, my food buddy, or my whatever buddy, that whenever I'm in trouble. And that person, they're going to essentially act as your frontal lobe when your frontal lobe dies out. They're going to say, whoa, okay, your 20 minutes is up. Good for you. You called. Now follow my instructions. And obviously you have to trust the person. Get out of that bar. Get out of that environment. How can you leave that environment? You're going to be okay. Just hang on. I got your back. I'm going to essentially guide you, because you can't guide yourself anymore. I mean, basically, you don't want to rely on that until the addiction craving, that craving, which, by the way, is another thing that's interesting. Cravings usually last 20 minutes. You got the frontal lobe lasting 20 minutes and the craving lasting 20 minutes. The one might work. It might work, but it won't work the second time that day. And it might not even work enough that day. It's just like the EpiPen might have worked, but you don't want to take the chance. So that's why we have tools of recovery management after. And so it becomes a lifelong experience, because we cannot count on that frontal lobe. That's basically the message I want to say in this segment, is we cannot count on the frontal lobe. So we want to have a platform of recovery, which is to say, I know people don't like to say this, but I'm powerless over my addiction, only insofar as I know that there's been a dysregulation, a default wire, a miswiring now, and otherwise I'm fine. And I actually do have power if I follow those rules that I tell myself I have to do. When I'm in trouble, I call a person or do whatever it is. There's where my control is. But my control, my powerfulness is not in saying no. It's in making sure I don't have to say no, and that when I do have to say no, that I have help getting to say no.